Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We have a very special Week 12 cage match between myself and Peter CSURAM88 Jennings, co-host with me on the Daily Fantasy Edge podcast, founder of Fantasy Labs, one of the greatest, the goddamn greatest daily fantasy sports players of all time. Cash games, tournaments, live finals. This man has done it all. I'm glad to call him my friend, and we're going to bring him onto the show today. He is going to be playing for charity with me. Our guest always gets to choose what we play for. Peter has chosen that we're going to play for $250. He is playing for the Royal Family Kids charity, which is confronting abuse and changing lives. They run a camp for abused and fostered kids, and we are going to be playing for them. And I, as always, will be playing for No Kid Hungry. 1 in 6 kids deals with hunger right now in America, and No Kid Hungry does what they can to provide school breakfasts and lunches for those kids so that they can have food and not have to deal with such a horrible thing like not having food. So our guest always gets to pick first and 1 or second and 2. He has chosen that he wants to go second and let me have the first pick. This is a very, very tough week. There's not a lot of value. We draft these on Wednesdays, and if you play head-to-head on Draftkings, you know that you're going to have a lot of overlap. You're going to have 2, 3, 4, sometimes as many as 6 or 7 players that your opponent has, and it's really just a 2 versus 2 situation where you've got differentiation. But the way that we do these, we're using the salary cap and we're drafting in kind of a snake style draft. So there's going to be no overlap, which makes it very difficult to manage your salary and not get sniped. And who are you going to take and who are you going to leave? For me, it's a really fun way to play the game. I want to bring in Pete here. Pete, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Loving your chat with the smiles and yeah, just that intro. This is truly a great thing, and Smizz, you've done a great job. This is just it's fun playing for charity. This is a great format. I think it's a ton of fun, and yeah, excited to see who you're going to take first. I think it's a really tough week. I have no idea who I'm going to pick yet. Like you just left me with the first pick, and I just don't know what to do. So I've got the charity that you're playing for, Royal Family Kids, right up on the screen right now. We're gonna get to drafting in just a second. Peter, why don't you tell everybody where they can find your content and follow you on social media, and then we'll get to the draft. Perfect. Yeah, I'm at CSURAM88 on Twitter. All my content is on Fantasy Labs and at the Action Network, and really excited. Obviously, we have the DFS Edge, but hopefully people tuning in for this know about that podcast. And yeah, excited. Hopefully this NFL season started off pretty poorly, but now it's been a pretty strong trend recently. So hoping to keep it going. And yeah, Smizz, I feel like you're due for a Millionaire Maker win. I'm
due for a Millionaire Maker win?
Yeah,
I've already done that.
I feel like you're just due. You know,
that's 2016. That's so 2016.
You just haven't won a million recently. I feel like it's just like you're not. Yeah. It hasn't happened recently. So
I went to lunch once with Maki Supa in Chicago. When I was in Chicago visiting, family, where I had an afternoon off, my wife was with the kids and stuff, and she's like, go to lunch with your friend. And it was like basketball season. I said, how's basketball season treating you so far? I was like, well, I haven't really started playing, but I toyed around with it a little. I'm sure I'll bink something before the season's over. That's just like the January. Confidence was massively high. Yeah, that was about when it was. It was around Christmas time, I think. So anyway,
you've killed it in January.
Yeah, I have historically done well in NBA in January once NFL season kind of stops and I can concentrate on NBA. But let's get to this. As we've both said, this is an extremely tough week for daily fantasy. There's not a lot of value out there. Typically, I go with the value play. I go with what I think is maybe the cheapest player on the board that I think is viable to open things up later. I don't know that I can do that right now because maybe something will open up as the week goes on, but I think I just got to kind of stick to more solid plays at the beginning and then see what Pete does with his 2, and then maybe I can dip and duck and dodge and dive from there. I'm going to start with Uncle Lenny. I want to get volume. I think that this is going to be a closer and more competitive game than people think. I love the pass game usage that he has, giving me a really solid floor of maybe 7 or 10 points just with passing game usage, right? If he gets 6 catches for 40 yards, that gets me 10 points, not including what he does on the ground. If this game is close and competitive, the only time that he is not getting 18 or more carries are games that they are getting blown out. I'm not sure that Tennessee is going to run away with this game and get a 15, a 20, a 25 point or 24 point lead on Jacksonville, which means that they're going to keep feeding Uncle Lenny the ball. In addition to his game flow independent status as a dominant threat in the passing game at this point, and hopefully he can actually find his way into the end zone, which and regress positively towards the mean, because he has had way too much red zone and inside the 5 usage to only have 1 touchdown at this point in the season. Offense should be working a little bit better with Nick Foles in his second week back under center. Give me Lenny Fournette. I'm going to start there. I'm going to see where you go with your 2nd and 2.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. Definitely someone I was considering. He also, they talked about, getting Leonard Fournette the ball even more, which he's had as much volume as any running back. So I like that call quite a bit. There's 3 guys that I want here, and I'm going to pick a mid-tier guy and an expensive guy. I'm going to go Miles Sanders at running back.
Okay.
And I'm going to take Michael Thomas at receiver.
Ooh. Talk to me about Miles Sanders, because we don't have all the injury news yet. He's healthy, but he may be in the same situation he was last week where he got a lot of carries.
Yeah, Miles Sanders is definitely a risky pick. I think basically every running back is somewhat risky. If you take Devontae Freeman, who I think is in consideration, he could get hurt. You have the Brian Hill situation. You have Jordan Howard. Is he going to be good enough to play? But Miles Sanders, to me, the floor is still there, even if Howard plays, just because he should be involved in the passing game. And if Howard is out, this is just a much better matchup where I think he can perform really well. And at 5K, if Howard's out, I think he's one of the top values. So he's a marginal play, but I just don't think there's many good plays. And Michael Thomas, there's a couple expensive guys that I really like, but I'll take Michael Thomas at 9,300. The least amount of fantasy points he's had in one game this year on DraftKings is 16 fantasy points. Guys averaging over 25 fantasy points on DraftKings this year. I'm just going to take Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to go too deep into the analysis with Michael Thomas. Yeah. He's really
Chris
good.
McCaffrey.
Yeah, Chris McCaffrey, also very good. Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
I mean, I made the argument this week that Michael Thomas is essentially, for daily fantasy purposes, like a running back. He's got a 15, 16 point floor and 30 to 35 point ceiling. Reasonably every single
consistent guy all year. I mean, it's incredible.
And you don't usually see that. We don't usually get that out of wide receivers. Sometimes there's a 7 or an 8 point floor, right? And like a guy like Julio, but he's getting different targets from Julio. He's getting different targets from any other wide receivers. Such a high catch rate, so many targets, such a huge.
He's seen
part
double-digit targets
every game but 1.
Every week,
every game but 2. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of them he had 9. I mean.
Yeah. So his bad week was 5 of 7 for 54 and a touchdown. He had 16.4 points.
Yeah.
That was his bad week.
It's not 9,900. He's 9,300. And he's ranking well. So I think it's a tough. I mean, all these choices are very tough. I'm curious where you go.
This is an ugly week for a cage match, but we're going to do it. I was kind of hoping that Thomas was going to fall to me here. So you did steal somebody from me already. My second pick, I'm going to go for more volume and more pass game usage. Give me Le'Veon Bell going up against Oakland. 20 touches for each of the last 3 weeks. This offense is trending upwards and now gets a defense that is not very good at stopping other offenses from doing things. So give me my 20 touches. At least 3 or 4 of those should be coming through the passing game. Utilized around the goal line, 1 rushing touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. Good floor ceiling combo for me this week with Le'Veon Bell, and only 6,400. We've talked about value being tough to find, and a lot of questionable type value plays at running back between 4K and 6K, where especially if we're drafting on Wednesday, you got to take a chance, gamble, right? Like if you took Miles Sanders, if you mentioned Freeman, there's other guys at that range as well, where they could be really good or they could be not so good. So for me, Le'Veon Bell represents a solid play with solid workload for a price just above that, but allows me to get a little bit of savings. He's kind of at the average price.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He's on my list. Did you get another pick, or are we just going every other now?
No, it's just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna force myself to get some value later, but I'm going, and I actually love this just in general this week. If you can make it work, and I have some ideas on how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Julio next.
Oh wow!
I think getting these two stud receivers is big this week. I mean, Julio has been more inconsistent relatively, but this is just a dream matchup at home versus Tampa Bay. And I'm expecting some positive regression in terms of touchdowns, even though, I mean, I guess the last couple of years he's really struggled relatively with touchdowns. I'm still banking on that versus Tampa Bay. And yeah, Julio at 8K is a pretty strong value, at least right now based on my projections. So I'm going to have to find some cheap guys here soon, Smiz, which is obviously intel for you, but I wanted to take a spend off the board with your roster. I felt like you were setting up yourself for Julio.
The question is, do you think that this is an eruption week for Julio Jones?
Oh, we're gonna have to ask Levitan on the podcast, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a little.
I'm not in that field.
You're not in the eruption prediction field.
No, that's Smiz, or that's Levitan's MO. He's got to take that one.
I mean, he has been priced up for the matchup. We've seen this happen on DraftKings pretty much with everybody, right? Like, he got a very modest price up from 7,500 to 8K in this matchup with Tampa Bay, where Michael Thomas went from like 8,300 to 9,900 last week in the same matchup. So, not as drastic.
Yeah, I'm just going for the home. I mean, I need Thomas and Julio to just go nuts, and that's what I'm banking on. I have a couple picks in the docket here. You've spent 2 running back slots, so it's okay. I've
spent 2 running back slots, which means that I'm going to want to take a wide receiver here. I'm going to try and just, you know what? I know what you can't do now.
Yeah. There's one guy on the board that's now yours you can wait for. I'm not going to be able to get Christian McCaffrey.
I don't know if I can get him either, but maybe I'll try later.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, oh,
I don't know if I can either. But I am going to take a value play off the board. Now, this is going to be a bit of a reach. And we talked about him before. And this may hurt you. It might not. I'm going to talk myself through this. I kinda want to chase. I want to chase the snaps. I want to chase the targets. I want to chase the playing time. Even though the matchup is extremely tough, Tim Patrick is at the absolute stone minimum this week. If I can get 4 catches for 45 yards, I kind of feel like I've got a situation where I can be in line to win a lot of money.
I know why you're really taking Tim Patrick.
To tilt your face off.
Yeah.
Because if Tim Patrick finds his way into the end zone, he finds his way into the end zone, you're going to be tilted massively.
He's going to play. He's going to be on the field. They have to play him. And at 3K, sets you up for a running back that I can't get, which I know you're positioning yourself for. So I think that's smart. That's man.
So that's where I'm going to go. I have an average of 55.50. I still have a defense, obviously. There's places that I can save, but locking up what I think is one of the better value play receivers on the board to allow me to spend a little bit later gives me that opportunity.
Man, talk about how ugly this cage match is.
It's going to be terrible. I told you this week sucks.
What pick was that? Like, yeah, pick 5. Wow. I mean, it's brutal, and I'm just like want to throw up in my mouth with every one of these picks I'm looking at here.
Oh, I'm going to make one. I think I've got another one that's going to just be bad.
Oh, let me just check something here. I'm debating between 2 guys. And I actually don't know if I even need to do it because you're setting up. I'm going to wait on running back, actually.
All right.
So painful. Oh, this hurts so bad.
This is a painful one, man. I'm telling you, this is the worst.
This is easily the worst week to make a team on DraftKings that I've had so far.
And to make it early, like without Thursday and Friday practice reports, with no value sitting there that you can really, really hang your hat on. Talk yourself through it. Tell the chat what you're going through.
Well, so right now there's a couple running backs that I want, but I'm thinking you're setting yourself up for McCaffrey. So if that's the case, you want to be a smart drafter. Don't take a position that the other guy's not going to take. So I have a couple running backs that are both garbage, but I'm going to take them. So wide receiver, there's a couple guys that I'm looking at, and then it comes down to, do I want to take a tight end or a quarterback right now?
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback, there's 2 or 3 guys I really want, so I can live with you taking one of them. Then I go to tight end. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Zach Ertz.
All right. Spending up at tight end.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Zach Ertz. Why him versus somebody else at the position?
Well, there's a couple guys that I was considering. But I think Zach Ertz at home, given the volume that he's going to see, I mean, we're coming off 2 games with 11 targets. He's really coming into his own. We have the Bible narrative, as Adam has referenced multiple times. And Seattle is just it's a good matchup at home. I mean, I think this game can have quite a few points. And, you know, I was considering Goddard. I was considering a couple tight ends that are cheap, but I feel very safe with Zach Ertz. And just doing some roster construction in my head, I think that's the money I'm going to have. But you could foil that plan. I'm counting on you to take a certain guy later on. Maybe you don't do that.
Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. You plugging him in locks you in with 4,300 left to go. We do have the massive penalty if you can't finish a lineup.
Trust me, I got dumpster divers coming up.
I've already taken one with Tim Patrick. I'm going to take what I think is a quality play. Since you took a tight end, I kind of don't have to, but it's not like quarterback. You could use 2 tight ends in the flex. So like, it's not a position where if I don't get the guy that I want, I have to wait. Zach Ertz is tremendous. 11 targets, 2 straight games. Seattle extremely giving in terms of efficiency to tight ends when they're targeted. They've allowed like a quarterback rating above 125 or above 130 when opposing teams target the tight end against them. So Ertz could see it. They also run a lot of 2 tight end, which to me brings Goddard into play. Obviously,
I was looking at him. Yeah,
Ertz is the primary there. But just south of Goddard, on a team in a good matchup, who's gotten 7 targets each of the last 3 weeks at tight end, has only found his way into the end zone 1 time, and a lot of injuries on this squad. Vance McDonald's only 3,500.
That's what I was looking at.
And gives me an awful lot of volume at that position with touchdown upside.
For the other guy that I know you're going to take. So this is kind of going exactly what I anticipated. That's perfect. Taking Vance?
I got Vance at my tight end spot. So Fournette, Bell, Patrick, McDonald. My cheap guys at least are on the field and should have volume. Fournette and Bell should have a ton of volume, and I'm going to need them to carry this team. But I have 5,960 remaining, plus a defense. It's going to raise that a little bit. And we're over to you.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I am looking here. Just making sure this team adds up because I think it's perfect.
See, this is the advantage that every single player that plays the cage match against me has, is that you guys have all the time. I'm doing like a screen share, so I can't sit here and like, what if this? Okay, if I pick this guy and I pick this guy, how much salary am I gonna have left? That's a massive advantage that you guys have. The advantage that I have is that I have home stream advantage. That like you guys are not used to doing this live and on stream in front of a Twitch audience.
One thing I just noticed is, did you see that Atlanta's defense is 3,500 this week?
I did see that.
Wow. Holy cow.
I did see that. 11 sacks the past 2 weeks, a total of 18 on the year. 7 sacks prior to the last 2 weeks, 11 the last 2. Man, priced up in the matchup against Tampa Bay for obvious reasons.
Yeah. So if I take, this is interesting. Looking at a little bit of news here.
Yeah. Tempted
to take Alshon Jeffrey right now.
He's not expensive.
He's not expensive, and I could plug someone in, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'll stick with my original plan here. I'm going to take Scarborough right here, which is a very, very thin play.
Oh,
to be very clear. Yeah, I think it's a very, very thin play. But there's upside, and he's getting the rush attempts. The downside is he's not involved in the passing game. But I did see enough out of him that I expect kind of that same range, 12 to 15 carries. And he has a lot of touchdown equity going against the Redskins. So we'll see. I actually like him more with Driscoll in, which Stafford is sounding pretty bad. So I'm expecting Stafford to miss. Has he been confirmed out? Because I see an O on his name on DraftKings, but I thought he was just still week to week.
I mean, that'll change.
He has broken bones in his back, so I expect Driscoll to play.
It's not a good situation for his back right now.
Yeah. So with Driscoll playing, running quarterback, I think the best way for the Lions to move the football is a lot of like this read option and just get Driscoll running, and that's going to help the running back a ton. And Scarborough he's big. That's about the best thing I can say.
He is big. That's true.
He's big, and you were never going to take him. It's just I'm in a weird spot. He's the one guy that I'm definitely locking in. I'm still moving around. But yeah, 4,200 for Scarborough makes me want to throw up. But that's okay.
I mean, I get it. I really do. I'm not faulting the pick. I just you know my issue.
You can fault the pick. I think it's terrible. No.
It's not the pick. My issue is not with the pick. It's like I just can't predict what Detroit's going to do with their running backs. We've seen this all year, right? We're like, oh yeah, it's Ty Johnson week, and then all of a sudden Ty Johnson has like 5 touches.
Yeah.
So like, Bo Scarborough could be a great pick. I think that he should be the guy. Like again, we're like Evan Silva says, we're assuming rational coaching, right? Mm-hmm. So like,
I just don't see him not getting like some carries. He should get the ball
12 to 15 times, and he should theoretically get all of the inside the 5 carries, like the high leverage.
That's what I'm banking on in a big way.
Right.
And trust me, the other running back that I'm looking at, not pretty either.
But
I built
you're going with
trying to beat you with my receivers and tight ends.
Look, man, you've got 3 of the best at the pass catcher positions. I'm going to come back here, and again, I'm going to throw up. I swear to God, I'm going to throw up when I make this pick.
They're all bad picks.
They're all bad. Every pick is bad.
There's nothing good.
They're all horrible, horrible picks. But I kind of want to get you off of this person. And I also want to tilt you a little bit, because that's kind of the fun of doing these cage matches. And one of your favorite receivers of all time is DeMarius Thomas, and he has been in a high volume spot for the past few weeks with a Jets offense that is trending upward and facing off against Oakland, who really can't stop anybody. 3,800 I think is too cheap for DeMarius Thomas. So I could go with him, and that would be a route. Or we attack one team through the air all the time. There's another one of your favorite players. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a narrative here. I'm going to project a little bit that Josh Gordon, coming off of a bye week, is going to play more snaps than he played the first game. And he played a solid amount of snaps in his first game with the Seahawks. Did not really know the playbook. We do have an injury that is being dealt with by Tyler Lockett, the unquestioned number 1 receiver on the Seahawks. We have an all-time great quarterback here and an all-time streamer position. Yeah, a generational streamer here. In the Philadelphia pass defense. I think Josh Gordon's going to get more than those 2 targets that he got
I like that.
a couple of weeks ago. And with DK Metcalf priced way up to 6,300, I'm going to take the 2,100 in savings and go with Josh Gordon here. They're all ugly. Every value pick is ugly, but I want one that's backed by talent, upside, and efficient quarterback in a high-scoring environment with a good matchup. So give me Josh Gordon here. I now have 6,400 remaining to spend on the rest of my lineup, including a defense, which will raise that a little bit more.
Yeah, and you're going to spend 10-5 at a running back. So that's good to know. Yeah, the chat. Man, Pete, your lineup looks yucky. I have another word. My lineup is very dusty. It is bad. Every
lineup you make this week looks bad. And then when you factor in that there's players that we're blocking each other from and can't take, it's going to look even worse. This is going to be the ugliest looking cage match that I've run so far this year.
No, it's not even close. I mean, basically what it comes down to is you're forced to either take these like really gross wide receivers or gross running backs. And most weeks we've had like some receivers or running backs that we feel really good about that are cheap.
Yep.
And that's not the case at all this week.
At all.
Like a lot of guys that I would take a chance on like Jalen Samuels, for example.
7,200. Yeah,
exactly. Man, it is ugly here.
So where are you going with this? You're gonna take your QB off the board. QB is another ugly position this week. QB is a position there's like 3 or 4 dudes.
I'm almost building like a GPP team here.
Many people have done that so far. About half the crowd has built a cash game lineup, and half the crowd has built a GPP lineup.
Yeah, well, I'm trending towards a GPP lineup. Yeah, I'm going to take Matt Ryan as my quarterback.
All right, talk to me about Matt Ryan. 6,700.
Yeah, he's expensive. I think there's a couple quarterbacks that are in play. So I'm leaving you either. I think the two other options that I'm strongly considering at this moment in time are Drew Brees and Carson Wentz. And I guess you can make the argument for Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson as well. But Carson Wentz is the clear value right now. It's just tough. He hasn't done it as well without Deshaun Jackson. And I think that's just really hurt this team. Only a couple games over 20 points. I mean, he had the big explosion first week versus the Redskins, but had everyone healthy. But outside of that, I mean, he's just been really porous. So I'm going to pass on Carson Wentz. I do have exposure to him via Zach Ertz. And then Matt Ryan's the guy that's actually projecting for the top overall quarterback on the slate for me right now. I think he's a tremendous option going against Tampa Bay, which is a huge funnel. And Matt Ryan's been balling all year. I mean, outside of the, New Orleans game and obviously the Rams game where he got hurt, he's gone over 300 yards basically every game. So I think against this Tampa Bay team, which is the biggest funnel we've seen, Atlanta's going to throw a ton. Already have Julio in the lineup, so got some correlation. And yeah, I think Matt Ryan's really strong.
I don't disagree with you. I really don't.
It's expensive.
I mean, no, he's expensive, but like you're paying for what you know, right? We're paying up to get the thing that we know about. You know that he is going to throw the ball a ton. You know that Tampa Bay is the team that forces you to throw it a ton. They don't really have a great running game, Atlanta. It's a controlled weather environment here against a team that can't stop what Atlanta brings to the table. And you've got the combination of, you've got the stack with Ryan to Julio.
Yes, sir. I mean, there's a couple other. Baker Mayfield, I think, is interesting, but there's a little more uncertainty there. And it's just the quarterbacks are priced so close together that I'm just going to take the highest certainty play.
I don't disagree with that. I'm going to take the highest certainty play, and it's going to be Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Pete saw this coming a mile away, and he was right. I still, after taking Christian McCaffrey, to add to Leonard Fournette and Le'Veon Bell, I might get 80 to 90 touches this week out of my 3 running backs that I've taken. All 3 of them massive floor candidates because of their usage in the passing game. I don't have to tell you how great Christian McCaffrey is, Pete, or anybody that's watching this video on YouTube. You guys know how good this dude is. With my defense, which is going to raise my average remaining salary per player, I can easily fit him in. Yes, Tim Patrick is an ugly value, but at least he's going to be on the field. Josh Gordon might have 3 catches, might have 6 catches. At least it allows me to have the guys that are on the field at wide receiver, and I still have enough money to spend with this team jam them in sort of build this week.
Mm-hmm. All right, my next receiver is going to be Nelson Aguilar. I was thinking about Wentz as well. I mentioned that I think he's a decent play. He just hasn't had huge production so far this year. So I'm getting a decent percentage of the passing game. I have basically a Philly stack here. It's one of the highest totals on the board, but I don't have the quarterback. So that's a safety thing here versus Al trying to soak up a lot of this Philly offense. Aguilar saw 9 targets last week. Obviously dropped that touchdown, which brought back that same video I'm sure you saw. And Aguilar handled that really well, by the way. Did you see his response to that guy? He's like, oh, come to, like, the guy just basically buries him. The guy, people are catching.
They're catching babies being thrown out of windows, not like Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, just a great video. And Aguilar came back with class, which I appreciate and like. But yeah, this play is a specific head-to-head matchup here. I want exposure to this Philly offense. I have Ertz, Aguilar, and Sanders now. So I was strongly considering Wentz as my other quarterback option. And yeah, it's not pretty, but Nelson Aguilar, 4,100. I was actually going to take Josh Gordon, who I think has a little more upside, but Aguilar should see volume. And that's going to be this DFS slate this week. You just have a lot of pretty ugly mid-tier to low-tier punts you're going to have to make, either running back or receiver or both.
We definitely have some business decisions that we have to make on this slate. That's for damn sure. All right, so I have a quarterback, which I don't really have to take. You have not filled your flex, so if I take my wide receiver here, that might block you from somebody. But I have to toy around with this for a second because there's a few wide receivers that I think are available, none of which that you can take. So like, you're not really, I guess you're not going to block me. The only guy that I could take to block you would be DeMarius, who I mentioned before, but that would open up way too much salary for me and it's unneeded. If I was to plug in Odell Beckham Jr. here, that would leave me with 8,100 left to spend. I don't know that that's enough for what I want to do. I could plug in Jamison Crowder for 6,200, who's one of my favorite plays through season long this year, if you guys followed my content in the lead up to the season. And that would leave me enough money to do. So I have pretty much this range in here. But there's one player that's playing, as you mentioned, Baker Mayfield is in a great spot this week going against Miami, who's given up such a high rating on deep balls that have been thrown. So many touchdown passes allowed to wide receivers. They've got a ridiculous, I think the 4th highest touchdown percentage allowed this season. And I've got 40 targets headed towards Jarvis Landry the past 4 weeks for 6,300. I'm going to plug Landry here against Miami, giving me a little bit better look, hopefully, of this wide receiver core that I've got. Josh Gordon, Landry, and then, Tim Patrick to go along with the 3 great running backs that I've got, leaving me with 8,800 to spend on a quarterback and a defense. I'm going to kick it back to you.
I like it. I genuinely like your team.
Chat shouting revenge game in the game against Miami here. I think, is he gonna, okay, on a level of 0 to Steve Smith, how much revenge does Jarvis Landry have?
If Steve Smith's a 10, it's like a 4, my guess.
Okay, so mild revenge here.
Mild revenge. What do you think?
Okay, in soccer, when guys play, I don't think he left Miami on bad terms. Or
No,
did he?
He went out and got paid.
Right, like he didn't leave there. He wasn't like angry. So like in soccer, when like a player leaves a team and they loved the fans and they loved the team and they had a good experience there and they score a goal against their old team, they do this. So like, I'm not going to celebrate. I scored a goal. It's just business. I see him scoring a touchdown and just kind of going, thank you. Here's a ball. Miami fans love you guys. But like,
The only risk to you with Landry is the Browns have been known to party. You've seen those boat pictures.
Yeah, they've also been known to suck this year.
Yeah, that's true. And the game's in Cleveland, so it's not like he's going to be actually in Miami.
You can't party in Cleveland. There's no partying going on there.
That's the true thing. If it was in Miami, you'd have a little more risk.
Yeah.
Speaking of the other side of the ball, I mean, my team is pretty strong outside of my just egregious running backs here. I mean, I was going to take Fournette for sure in the 2 or the 3. I'm a little more concerned about Le'Veon Bell than I mean, his price tag's nice, and he did see volume, but he had the least amount of snaps last week that he's had. So
he came into that game a little bit dinged up.
He came up dinged up, and Oakland's actually been pretty solid versus the run, but it's just tough. Running back is just really, really, really tough. I mean, you want to play McCaffrey, Kamara, and Chubb, but you just don't have the value to jam all those guys in. And I went the opposite way, jamming in the receivers. I really love Michael Thomas this week. I think he's a great value. And I got Zach Ertz. So I think the one thing about Zach Ertz that I like is if you compare other players at 6K, Zach Ertz stands out in a big way. And maybe this is a 2 tight end week. It's very rarely a 2 tight end week, but I do like Vance McDonald a lot as well. So that's an intriguing part of this. But yeah, long story short, I have just absolute trash at running back. And I'm taking a guy who's going to get volume, but he is not good. He's a really bad player.
He is not good.
He is bad. I'm taking KALEN BALLAGE.
The Bellagio.
There's a couple things that are against Indy. He had 20 rush attempts, right? Which is great. You're thinking that's great. Average 2.2 yards per carry. Buffalo, 9 attempts, 1 yard per carry. Did get a touchdown. But the nice thing that I saw last week that is encouraging going forward, he's going to be on the field a lot, and he had 6 targets in the passing game. Got 12 points versus Buffalo. Cleveland, obviously, without Myles Garrett, they're a defense that I don't really fear too much. And I'm just getting volume with Ballage. So I went with, Miles Sanders, I guess, is the opposite because I'm a really big believer in his talent. It's more the concern on the opportunity, and I'm gambling that Jordan Howard might be out again. Scarborough and Ballage. I've never had worse players in my team, ever.
There's a lot of good YouTube college videos of all 3 of those guys, though.
Yeah. I like YouTube, so
good YouTube highlights.
I used to watch the YouTube highlights quite a bit.
You definitely have the YouTube highlight running back slate here.
Ballage is not talented, I don't think,
but he has some good highlights from college.
Yeah, he does have some good highlights, and he will see volume. I actually think Ballage is. We'll see how things break, but
there's nobody else there.
He might end up in I don't know. I needed Scarborough for the savings too, but yeah, they're both bad.
He's bad, but like there's nobody else there. You got 2,300 for a defense.
It's ugly.
I told you guys this was going to be an ugly week. Here's my issue. If I was to pick the Falcons D, that would leave me with 5,300, leaving me with Tannehill, Kyle Allen, Mitch Trubisky, Daniel, Dalton, Fitzpatrick. I can't do it. Falcons are my favorite defense on the week, but I kind of painted myself a little bit into a corner with the guys that I wanted. To be honest with you, Pete, I thought you were going to leave Michael Thomas, and I was going to come out of this with Fournette, Thomas, and then maybe see if I could fit McCaffrey later. But you taking Thomas those first two picks definitely blocked me. Maybe go a little bit of a different route. The quarterback that I'm going to go with is the one that I think is the best value on the board this week, going against Seattle, is Carson Wentz. Really high total, 5,600. Yes, I know that if he has a big game and he throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, that Pete is probably going to be the beneficiary of some of that with AGHOLOR, with Miles, and with Zach Ertz in there.
That was my block.
Yeah, so like this is the block that he has there. So
it works vice versa though. If my guys do well, then Wentz is going to do well.
So to some degree, but the players have the higher side. I just have to hope that like
Goddard.
Nelson, I hope that Goddard and
Alshon
Jeffrey have 4 touchdowns combined this weekend is basically the dream here.
I almost took Alshon Jeffrey and I was really considering it.
He's cheap this week.
He's cheap, and then we'll just see how that shakes out. But I do expect that game to have a lot of scoring. I think one thing that Seattle, maybe not as much now, but people are giving their defense way too much credit.
There's a lot of reputation defenses this year that are living off of their past reputation, and just aren't living up to that this year. Seattle would be one of them. Baltimore earlier in the season, but they've kind of righted the ship as the season's gone.
Their defense looks pretty good now.
Yeah, they look solid now. But they were somebody we were picking on earlier in the year, and most people were not. And had not shifted that when all their DBs were out. Now they've got them back. It's a different story. You have 2,300 for a defense to finish off your team for this cage match. Who are you going with?
Man, it's tough. I was
Cowboys, Bucks, Panthers, Bengals, or Dolphins.
Yeah, it's not the Dolphins. It's either the Bengals or the Cowboys. And chat, help me out here. Who do you guys think I should take? Let's see what the chat says.
Is Tom Brady still an elite quarterback?
I have Bengals rated higher right now, which I think – I love the Cowboys defense just in general. I think they have a lot of playmakers and in the right spot. They're definitely a defense that I've taken this year, but this is not the right spot going up against the Patriots who, Brady's not playing at like a super high level, but he's still not going to turn it over and he's at home. So see a couple Bengals. That was my lean as well. I'll go Bengals here.
The Bengals defense going up against Pittsburgh, playing without their center who is suspended and a quarterback who's got a dented head from getting hit on top of the head with his own helmet.
And if Connor doesn't play, that hurts. Juju doesn't play. I mean, they're an inexperienced team. The Bengals are obviously freaking terrible. It's a punt play.
And you now have leverage against my Vance McDonald at tight end.
Again, your team's definitely stronger, I think. Smith.
Well, I don't know. Your receivers are really, really good. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions defense against Washington and their rookie quarterback. I know this game has a low total. I want teams that are going to drop back a lot. They may not do that. And the Lions have been hot and cold this season, up and down with sacks. I want pressure. Ideally, I would have been able to go and stream against Jameis Winston, but apparently they've made the Falcons defense $2 million.
They made him that expensive. Yeah. So I thought they were going to be a good play, and now at 3,500, it's tough. One thing with your last pick, Redskins versus Lions, I think is interesting.
Yeah, with the backup quarterback and the
Driscoll just runs.
At running back.
He's a runner, so it's like he's going to run.
He can extend plays, sacks. And their defense has been consistent at least with pressure. But I think that they give up enough yards that they're going to stay on the field. So I'm going to use the Lions. I'm going to attack them, leaving me with Wentz, Fournette, Bell, Tim Patrick, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, Vance McDonald, and the great Christian McCaffrey in the Lions defense. Peter has gone with Matt Ryan, Sanders, Scarborough, Thomas, Jones, AGHOLOR, Ertz, Ballage, and the Bengals. If you haven't already, jump over and follow Pete on all his different social media channels. Pete, thank you for joining us this week.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love this concept. It's a great thing you're doing for charity. You do a lot of great content out of this, but this is probably my favorite piece. I think it's obviously great for the charitable reasons, but I love this format. I think this is a really fun way to play DFS, a good way to play with your friends, and I think you got the best of me there, just running through some projections here. But Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, I just need to fade a massive Christian McCaffrey game, which I've said that before and normally doesn't end up too well.
We're gonna have to text the odds maker and see what the house says.
I
about
think
this
yours
one.
projects a little bit better.
It's gonna be
just
close.
Going through it,
it's gonna be close.
It depends how you project Le'Veon Bell. I'm a little more down on him relatively, but I think Fournette was at least we took the guys who I think were necessary to take early, and Leonard Fournette and Michael Thomas. Those are the two guys I thought were really strong plays, and we'll see. Miles Sanders, I went upside. I hate the running back value this week.
So do I. I don't like the value at all right now, and I'm hoping that things change by the time the weekend gets here. But guys, thank you for joining us on another video. Drop a like on this one. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and ring that notifications bell, because I put out a ton of content and I wouldn't want you to miss any of it when it goes live. So until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
He's a legend.